superstar because of that prowess. But when you have to go 286 runs and you have to go hard for 20 overs, chances are one of two things would happen. You either do well early or you lose wickets early. And I think that is what we're seeing here. While they might score quickly, they'll also keep losing wickets because you don't have an over you could kind of play yourself in. Everybody who comes to the crease would have to go hard almost from the first ball.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. I get you. And that's what we're recognizing right now. But anyway, my brother, we'll talk.
Yeah,
We'll
take care.
talk. Who
Enjoy
won
your
the game
program.
last night? Who won the game?
Queen's Park won, and of course Woodlands won the earlier game, the Division 2 game.
Okay. All right, man. Be blessed.
Yeah,
Catch
you
you.
too.
Yeah,
Take care.
good morning, everyone. I am this morning our devotion will be done by my good self. Sister Alison is all the way up in the bush there, and she cannot get any sort of of how to put it, signal or assistant or whatever. So this morning I just want to remind us that creation, I was looking at something and the guy said, well, God created the world in 6 days and he rested the seventh. And I was saying to him that, rest is not the absence of work. Sometimes we think that rest is the absence of work. So when we think that the rest is the absence of work, but then you ask yourself, well, if rest is just the absence of work, what made God so tired that after saying, let there be, let there be, let there be for 6 days, for 5 days, and then he knelt in the dust and he created a man? What made him so tired that he had to rest? And I said, rest is not just the absence from work. Rest is a state of mind that causes the body to become rejuvenate, revitalize, and become good to carry on. I said, if rest was just the absence from work, therefore those guys in the prisons, they are well rested. I mean, they're having Sabbath every day, but that's not the case. They are not well rested because rest comes from the mind at first. And that's why when the Bible speaks about a Sabbath rest, it's not speaking about just staying away from work. Yes, you stay away from work because work causes the mind to be active. But it's more than that. It's finding peace within oneself, being able to commune with God in a better way, being able not to be stressed by the news on the radio, not be stressed by sports, and not be stressed by people wanting to take you here and there. It's just a situation whereby you can put yourself in the armpits of God. And as you stay there and as you remain there and as you speak and you listen and you speak about things of God, the mind is at rest and then the body is at rest. So Sabbath is not just the absence from work. No, you could be having no work and still very tired because the things of your mind they are stressing you out to the point where although you are not working, you are tired all the time. So rest is not an absence from work. When we speak of the Sabbath rest, we're talking about spending our time with God, forgetting all the other things that create stress and distrust and things in your life, and just walk with God. And friends who are listening to me, try it once. You recognize at the end of that 24 hours how rejuvenated you are, how peaceful you are. Try it. Try. Don't get no preacher say to you that the law is done away with and you don't need that and any day is the Sabbath. Those are the devil speaking. Because he knows that if you have that rest every week, he knows how you will be regenerated. He knows if you spend that time with God, how much knowledge you will gain. He knows how it will transform your character into being the character of Jesus. He knows these things. So he sent people to tell you, no, you don't need a Sabbath. So you could worship any day. And then you take up Sunday. And then you go to church, and then you go to the market after, and you buy your newspapers, and you go to the football, and you go to the cricket. There is no rest there. There is no rest there. So when God calls you away from rest, he knows that rest will be good for you. May God bless you wherever you are this morning. You have heard my voice. I'm going to say a short prayer. Oh, Father and our God, we give thee thanks for your mercy and your grace. We give you thanks for knowing us. We give you thanks for calling us. We give you thanks for being with us. And as we go through another day and we go through another program, we ask, oh Father, that you come up in our midst, oh God, that you bless us in a most beautiful way, that at the end of this program, we will feel much stronger and much better than when it started. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And amen. Okay. Akia, all right. I say, oh my friend is back, man. Nice, man. So that is very good. That is very good. I just want to say as a word to the wise that we are living in a most trying of times, that if you don't recognize that, and if there was ever a time when you should think about coming back to Jesus, it's now. As you see, the things are happening in the world. The world is at a most dangerous state. It's a most dangerous state because this is the first time in a long time we will not be able to call despots to account. We will not be able to call guys like Putin and Obama and Kim and Xi to account, because we have a guy in the White House there who is himself a despot, and he seemed to be favoring these despotic people. And because of that, the world is in a most dangerous state. The killing has begun again in Gaza, and there will be no restraint because the guy in the White House is a despot. The killing has begun, has continued unabated. In fact, for 1 week, Ukraine had no arms and no intelligence. And what Russia did in that week, they forced them out of the Kursk region. They killed more people, destroyed, because we have a guy in the White House who's a despot. But I want to say to you, do not be alarmed. This is the time for you to come in and stand with Jesus, because this is the clearest sign that we are at the end of time. This is the clearest sign where church and state will mix. This is the clearest sign when the wicked governments who are not into free speech and not will come together with governments who are in that, because of what is happening at the White House. A lot of folks who ask a prophecy, I'm telling you, this is the prophecy, that we are closer to state and church reunion than we have ever been before. And for those who continue to look, anything happen to the pontiff, looking at that, that's not where it is. That is not where it is. The pontiff will be promoted as a moral leader, but the action of persecution, the action of Sunday laws, the action of all these things will come from that lamb-like beast, which is America. So we are in the throes of what is about to happen. And if ever there's a time you needed to come close and walk with Jesus, that time is now. A word to the wise is sufficient. Okay, today I am the protagonist today. So, so we have some ladies who want to speak about being a woman. And I usually I sit in my sociology classes. If there's one thing I would never like to be, is a woman. Not because I'm against women, not because I grew up with 6 sisters, and so you had a house with 2 boys, 3 boys, and 6 girls, my mother included. So I have nothing against women, but I see the disadvantages of being a woman. In my eyes, I could be wrong. There may be plenty advantages out there. But I see the struggle. Like on a morning, if I happen to go into Port of Spain and I pass City Gate, I'll see all these women with their children going to work and they have the children. Women who are in relationship with guys who are working. When they come home from work, she continues to work. She continues to work with these children. She continues to work with the house. So I see there's a larger burden on women than on men. So when you say to me you are discussing becoming a woman, it really spiked my interest immediately. It really tell me something that women need to hear what we said this morning. And I hope some women will call in and engage you all. So I want to start by dealing with childhood and upbringing because I saw my mother, as I said to you, those are the days of wood stove, and she will, the bake fire on top, galvanized with fire on top, fire below, and she will put those wood together. And she will do that, and then she will wash clothing for 9 children, and she will cook for 9, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the routine will continue. And I'm saying, but how could you have done that? The woman without stove now telling the husband, let's eat out, or let's order here. So, so I would like to know what being a woman is about. How do you think boys and girls are raised differently? And why do you think they are raised differently? And what do you think are the terms of expectations for boys and girls? Why they are raised differently? And how are they raised differently?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Pastor. Great question. I love how you kind of brought it, your upbringing and what you saw your mother do and stuff like that. I would say that what I would have noticed is there is a distinction with how men are raised, well, boys are raised and girls are raised. I think for us females growing up, you're taught to be responsible. You have to wash, you have to cook, you have to clean, you have to iron, you have to make sure things are in place. You have to do well in school, be academically soaring, for want of a better term. And I think sometimes boys get to just relax. Well, he doesn't have to do that. He's just a boy. I think the excuse of he's just a boy keeps coming up. While females there's this pressure with being a girl, even though you're young, there's this pressure of you having to have things all together. And even being that example, even females who are younger than their older brothers as well, you have a responsibility because you're a woman, even in the house, even, out in public, you just have to have things polished. Even where discipline is concerned, I think sometimes even some mothers are harder on the female than the male. I think sometimes as well, the boy is pampered, and I saw that even in my own family experience. Excuses were made for my brother, and I had to kind of be the polished sister, Also, we know that I believe that men are called to a greater responsibility because they're the ones who are supposed to care for a family. I think that is sort of ingrained in them, or that is sort of harnessed at a later point. Whereas females, you will be somebody's wife. So you need to know these things from small coming up. So I think there's a difference with how men are raised opposed to women, girls are raised opposed to boys. I think girls are required to be a bit more responsible than boys are. And then there's this perception also that the females mature three years faster than men. So where that is, considered, I think, parenting styles kind of differ there as well.
But with the flogging and the not sparing the rod, I don't know. Is there a difference in discipline? To me, the boys get more licks than the girls. I don't know. Was there a difference between the discipline, how boys are disciplined and how girls are disciplined?
Good morning, everyone. So just to add to what Akila was saying before, in terms of raised differently, and that this will lead into your question, Pastor. I agree that boys and girls are raised differently. And I agree with what Akila would have said, that as a girl, from young, you are trained to take care of a household. And that's why women or girls are trained to cook and clean and do all these different things. And if you can't do these things, you are really just looked down upon by your entire family, by society, by anybody who finds out that you can't cook and clean as a woman. That's just a disgrace. And I think that's how women are raised. And men, they tend to get away with a lot. And it's weird. In my household, I could speak for, so I have one younger brother, and he's not expected to do any chores, especially when we were younger. That's not an expectation of him, but it is an expectation of me and my sister to do chores. And if we don't do chores, we are, it's supposed to be natural. You're supposed to want to do chores and want to keep your house clean and want to keep your family clean and these sorts of, your family, good and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the expectations that you have. And it leads into discipline, because I agree with you that boys are disciplined more than girls, but I think that's because that's how we're brought up. Women are trained to do all these different types of things. So the need for discipline isn't as much because they train us to do certain things. And I would also like to say that women tend to be a little more obedient than men. So maybe that's accounted for the discipline as well. But men, there's not much expectation of them younger growing up. They are expected to play and to run and to fall and to break bones and these sorts of things. So, the discipline comes in when, well, they grew up having a certain amount of freedom. So now when you're trying to discipline, you would have to be a bit harsher because they're accustomed to a certain level of freedom that a woman never got accustomed to. So I think, yes, men are disciplined more than women, but it's because we train them in a certain way. And then when they behave the way we train them, we confused and we resort to physical discipline and these sorts of things. So
But women, apart from that, women grew up and they achieve more than men. So has this, I want to get my words correctly, has this hindered any one of you could answer, hindered your development? Or do you find, although you may be achieving, people still look down upon you and you are underestimated and you are not treated as the guys who may be just as qualified as you are? Is that something that is out there?
I believe yes. I believe yes. I think women, we had to, at one point, we had to fight for our rights, even fight for the right to work, the ability to work.
But some people might say you're fighting for men's rights, but go ahead.
Right. I guess the dictatorship we wanted less of, right? But I think depending on the field that you're in, especially in the realm of education, now we see even in universities, there are less men enrolling in universities than women. Women are considered now to be high achievers. I could speak for I could speak for my gaps. When I was in secondary school, it wasn't so much pressure on the men excelling and doing well, and there wasn't much pressure on men having to do or even achieve. But even when a man did, it was praised. I could also, the field that I'm in now, I think it's quite a competitive field, and I believe the views of men are prioritized and held in high esteem. I've seen that even in my classes with my lecturers. When the men talk in my faculty, like God came down and said a word. Even in group assignments, I had a group assignment recently, and we had to do something for contract. And there was one guy in the group, and all of the girls in the group were talking about, oh my gosh, like trying to find out so many things about him. He's just a student, just like all of us. There's nothing special about him, nothing. He would have given a contribution. Nothing was, his words were praised. I even saw, there was other time I was in this other group and I would have given a contribution and my contribution was beaten down. Then the man would have said the same thing that I said and it was accepted. So I believe there's a difference in terms of how men are treated and women are treated, even in the field of academia. Because I think, I don't know if it's something innate. I guess when a man talks, there's a level of respect and honor and authority. When it's just because he's a man, the head, women are underneath, that kind of thing. I do think that there's a difference between how men are treated and women are treated, even in the academic realm, even in different careers. You see, even in STEM, women fight for their voices to be heard, because men are the ones who drive things. I heard recently on social media, I was looking at a social media influencer talking about her experience doing internship at a hospital. And she would have mentioned as well too, there's some of her mentors, she would consider them to be sexist. Mainly because the men's views are prioritized and treated in high esteem, and she basically has to fight to make her name, and she's not given the same respect as her male colleagues.
Because could it be simply culture? we are cultured to see men and women in the same way. So that when we get into these environments that you are speaking about, we still see the male as the one in charge because we were cultured to think that the man is in charge. So therefore, if a group of females are sitting together and a male is among them, do you think it is normal to think that he should be leading? Anyway, we come back.
I mean, it's not. No, I mean, it's no. I guess innately, because we taught, as you said, there, men are so valuable. They're prized. There are not many good men. There's this perception out there that that's the case.
No,
I think we naturally get towards men being those that authority figure, as you said. Does it make it right? I think not.
Well, you said there are not much good men. I don't know. I don't know where you got that data from. But anyway,
so we need to have a talk.
No, how do workplace expectations differ as far as women are concerned and as far as men are concerned? People in the workplace, do you think they expect more of women or more of men? What do you think?
So I am in a female-dominated field where I used to work before. So I'm an attorney. So where I used to work before on the floor had 70 something people in total with less than 10 men. So it's a lot of women where I work.
No wonder the legal system is as it is.
Well, no, I believe there should be a balance always. I believe that, yes, while what we are talking about is true, I believe both men and women bring something unique to the table that the other party may not be able to bring as effectively, but that's beside the point. So I believe that the expectations in the workplace are different. I recently attended the Women in Leadership Conference that was hosted at the Hyatt, and that's really where I started to understand certain things that happen in the workplace in terms of what a man and a woman is expected to do. And it stems or agrees with what Akila would have said in terms of the respect that is naturally given to a man that a woman kind of has to fight for. And so in the conference, they were speaking about promotions and these sorts of things, where in the mind of a manager or a leader, for some reason, the man is the first option to promote and these sorts of things. So I think at the back of the mind of the leader is, well, if this is a woman, eventually she'll become a wife, she'll become a mother. She wouldn't give out as much in the job place as a man would, because a man would prioritize the work. Even if he's a husband, even if he's a father, he would still be given the promotion. He would still be first, looked at for these sorts of things. And there's also the idea of assertiveness. A man, when he's being assertive or borderline aggressive, as Akila said, it is praised and these sorts of things. He's just being a man. That's how men lead. That's how men are. But if a woman was to be assertive or stand up for herself in the workplace and say, I should have been given this opportunity, why was I overlooked? These sorts of things. Or she's being a, and so we aren't allowed to say those kinds of things or think those kinds of things. We should be grateful that we were even considered in the first place and these sorts of things. So there's this whole idea that women are supposed to be, you're grateful for whatever opportunity you get. You're not supposed to fight for anything, and these sorts of things. Even the whole idea of confidence. When a woman is confident, it's seen as, she's being vain. Why does she think of herself so much? But a man is naturally, we expect a man to be confident, and these sorts of things. So I think the way a woman carries herself in the workplace, the opportunity she's given, the role she's assigned to, even the salary she's paid, but that's a different thing, there's a lot of difference in the workplace. I have never personally experienced anything like that. Like I said, I'm in a very female-dominated field, and as Akila would have said, women are now enrolling more than men and these sorts of things. So, we're seeing women all over the place, but I'm not so sure if things are changing for the benefit or to cater for that.
Before I ask the question I want to ask now, would you say that women ought to be assertive and express confidence, although there's a great pushback on it? Are you still saying that women should? When they assert themselves, they are considered aggressive. Mm-hmm. Are you saying they still should? When they act with confidence, they are saying that they are not female, and they use all kind of word to describe them. Are you saying in spite of these things, women should be assertive, display confidence and things like that?
I think, long story short, yes, but I think there's a way to do it. I think there's a way to do it for both men and women. There's a way that you express confidence in a tasteful way. Yes, not overselling yourself or being overly vain and full of yourself and these sorts of things. There's a way to express confidence in a tasteful way. Similarly with assertiveness, I think, and it comes back from how you were trained growing up in the household. You were trained as a woman, just take what you get and be grateful for what you get. So when you're assertive now in the workplace, that mentality is already ingrained when you're an adult, but I think women still need to be assertive because we are not at that place yet where equal opportunity is there and these sorts of things. So we still need to stand up for ourselves, but again, do it in a tasteful way, as to not prove the stereotype true.
Okay. So do you think women should work harder than men to be, or they have to, or they should work harder than men to be considered in a professional environment? Are you, in your view, anyone if you could answer this? And I just want to say that Akira is a master's student in psychology, so she should understand what I'm saying here. Do you think that women need to work harder to be considered better, or do you think that working harder to be considered better is not the way to go, but is feeding into the whole system as it is?
That's a great question. I believe that equal opportunity, as Candice would have mentioned, should be extended to both genders, both sexes. Let me clarify that. I do believe that should be what governs or drives. I do not think that two persons should be working in the same position, in the same place, and one sex is told you need to grind harder than the other, and we're getting the same salary. I think also it is a bit difficult to change what society views as the norm. That's what I believe. I don't think if women try to work harder and try to push themselves up, the perception will change about how women are. It's just how we think. We just think that men are more competent, men are more capable. As Candice would have said as well, when women, we have a biological clock, and then when children come into the picture, we tend to become the nurturers. I think we should fight for equality. I think we should fight to be heard, to be seen, but I do not think that we should be given the responsibility to work harder to compete with the masses, meaning men. I mean, I know that we have to make our name, and obviously we have to put in more work than men would have to prove our competence, because there's this perception that we're not competent. So we're going into the environment with this preconceived notion that we are less than and we're not as capable as men are. But I do also believe that no matter how hard we try, no matter how hard we work, we might come to the point where we're overworking ourselves just to be accepted by the masses. And men would always have that upper hand and that edge. No matter how hard we work, how hard we try as women, men will always be seen as more competent. Even with the decline in the education system with men, the less men enrolling, the less men coming into certain fields, the scarcity of them even in those fields, them coming in, they'll be praised more, and their views will be accepted even more than ours because there are less of them.
I want to touch on that before I ask you this question.
Yeah.
It's not really a question as such. I'm just making a statement on that. The rise of female in the workforce, especially in education, it has driven men out of education.
Right.
I remember going to school and we having games, students against teachers, football, cricket. That can't be done anymore. They were all kind of 11. They had more than 11 male teachers in the school to form a cricket team or a football team, and the students be play against them. That is no more. If you say student against teachers, you have to be talking about netball or something because there are no guys around. So you're saying role models. I'm throwing in there. I have asked a question, not really a question, but I'm throwing in this since you were talking on that. There are things that are called role models. And it starts from early. There's no daddy daycare. So all those children as babies, they see the next person outside the home is the mother, is a female. The next person of authority in their lives become female. And that's why you ask most girls, you ask them what they want to be. They say a teacher when they were 5, 6 something, because that is the.
Yeah.
So when you get to secondary school, when I was going to primary school, I could call the amount of female teachers it had at primary school.
Yeah.
I could tell you about 4 or 5, wasn't more than that. When I was going to secondary school, it's a little more because they had more teachers, but the male still dominate the place.
Yeah.
Now you can go to primary schools and secondary schools and do not find a male teacher. So the whole mothering thing has created a problem by itself. So all that you say is true. But I just decided, no, as how we sociologists like to do, we like to give a reason for it. Yes.
Love that.
To give a reason for it. But the question I wanted to
But just before you say that, Pastor, I wanted to ask a question, if I could, to hear from your point of view then. I have this idea that, yes, I agree that women kind of, more or less taking over education and these sorts of things. But do you think that the education system is catered more for women than men in terms of the way that teaching is done and the classroom setting and these sorts of things? Do you think is more it's arranged in such a way that women would tend to succeed more than men?
Yeah, because it is the teaching is done more like even the mathematics is done more from a literature point of view and not from a logical point of view. Men look at logic. Men look at 1 and 1, make 2. Men look at a subjective reasoning for that. When you bring subjectivity to men, that's why I always tell young ladies, when you tell your boyfriend I love you, and he says I love you too, he is saying something different from what you are saying, because the way he analyzes things are different. And I'll tell you something, happened many years ago. Southern Academy had no math teacher for a semester. And Brother Rochi is dead now. Asked me if I can teach standard Form 4. If I can teach Form 4 and 5 the mathematics for a term. They were not, the student didn't like it at all. And for that term, they liked it. Because of my method. It happens right now at USC, the student members of my class, because my method. The method that is being used in the education system is more geared towards women. And you find that women are being more successful. One of the reasons why you mentioned it earlier is that they're mature faster than the men. So when I have a class of 11-year-olds, the 11-year-old boys in that class are thinking more like 9-year-old, but the 11-year-old girl are thinking more like 13-year-old. So I have a problem there, right there. And I'm teaching this class now with 2 different maturity levels, and you will find the woman will continue to shoot ahead. It's the same thing at university, it plateaus. So what happens if both men and women are doing about the same? But in the secondary level and the primary level, because of the structure of the education system, women will continue to excel. And what is happening now is there are some people who send the child to school that is more equipped. And when you're doing that, you find the girls more equipped, and you send the girls and tell the boy, you have to learn a trade or do something else. So girls are packing the system. Now, what I'm saying here is not being tested. This is my own hypothesis for why the system is like this. But you are right. It's easier for teachers to teach. First, I want patience. I cannot teach a class with rugrats. It will be impossible for me. But a woman, a woman can do it because all those ages, 7, 8, 9, 10, a woman can handle that better than a man because the patience in dealing with it. And that brings me back to this question I'm going to ask you. Do you think the whole challenge of women regarding marriage and family, you think this is adding to it, that the expectation of women, I am hiring a woman on a job, I am the boss, is it wrong for me to think about maternity leave, seeing about children? Is it wrong for me to think about these things when I'm expecting? Because a woman's expectation in life is different from a man's expectation. So you are the boss. You're hiring some workers, unmarried women, young women. Is it wrong for me to have an expectation that I will look at this hiring process in a different way?
Now, I would say that I have seen this as well in terms of I've seen where a vacancy is put out and they specifically say you cannot be a mother and you cannot be a wife to get this job. That is listed in the job description.
Wow.
Yeah, on the government website, just plain as day. And I understand from a business point of view that at the end of the day, you're a manager and you care about efficiency, productivity, showing results, these sorts of things. And you may have certain requirements that you feel or that you were trained to think that a woman or a mother or a wife is not able to deliver on, that a man would be able to deliver on. But I think at the end of the day, it's human beings that you're working with. And yes, there are certain duties and responsibilities that a mother and wife has that a non-mother and non-wife would not have. But I think a person should be accepted or rejected for a job based on their qualification and their ability to perform that job. So I think just from the get-go, disqualifying all mothers and wives without giving them a chance to prove themselves, not even giving them, not even putting them on the short list, not even interviewing them, just X over the name one time because you see mother or wife, that is who they are. I don't think that's right to start off with. I'm not saying that you should have a requirement that, you have you need to hire mothers and you need to do these things. You hire persons who are qualified for the job, but make sure that in investigating their qualifications, everybody is given a fair and equal opportunity.
So you see their double standards in choosing women and men in jobs. You see there's a double standard in evaluating them and choosing them. So you see double standards. Anyone?
I do believe that there is a double standard, and I want to piggyback on what Candice would have mentioned there. I think in looking at qualifications and also the opportunity, the equal opportunity, I think as well during the trial run, you need to establish if the person is able to take on the brunt of the responsibility. Because I've seen, at a previous job, women were given the leeway of leaving early to go pick up their children. So there was a time the job started and ended, but because they had children, they had to leave early to go and pick up the child, which would mean the work that they were responsible for the other part of the day, the remaining time was delegated to somebody else. And then there were some of the men who would have stated, well, I should just get a child too, so I can leave early from work, that type of thing. So I think I understand why those clauses are put in there, but at the same time, I think there's some people, even though they have children and their mothers, they still stick with the times they're given to be at their job, and they don't use the fact that I'm a mother or I'm a wife as an excuse not to perform. Pastor, even in terms of double standards, I think there is a double standard, and I do think we could change that, because again, being a wife and a mother, there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with that. But that doesn't negate being a husband and a father. There's not responsibility that comes with that either. Husbands have responsibilities, wives have responsibilities as well. And I think the load is shared equally. There is just this perception from back in the day that the woman take on most of that load. But if two persons are working together and both of them have jobs, they have to work hand in hand. And you would have mentioned previously about paternity leave. I think no, maternity leave. I think there's no paternity leave. I think there's leave for men as well when their wives made a child. But it's less time than the woman would have gotten.
But Candice said something earlier, a few 10 minutes back, when she said that the very training that went on in the home for the boy is different for the training for the girl. So
Yes.
when you get into a marriage situation, what do you expect? The boy wasn't trained to cook and wash and clean and hang curtain and these things. So when he gets into a marriage situation, how do you expect him to go about doing that?
So, and this is just I want to also think that it's a generational thing, because that is what you're saying is absolutely correct to a certain generation. But I think to the current generation now and the ones that are coming up, it is changing. It is changing because I think the women have complained enough that men finally realize, okay, if you really want this happy wife, happy life, you have to, do these sorts of things. And I think mothers are also realizing, you learn it from your experience as a wife. My husband wasn't taught to do X, Y, Z. Maybe I should teach my son to do X, Y, and Z, or I should talk to the father about teaching the son these sorts of things, because we hear girl chores and boy chores, certain things that male's supposed to do in the household and female's supposed to do in the household and these sorts of things. But when you have both parties going to work and both parties also have to contribute in the home as well. And I think that there are certain things a human being is supposed to know how to do, regardless if you're male or female. You should know how to cook and feed yourself. If you're a man or a woman, you shouldn't. And this is something growing up, you would see in different generations, that if food is not prepared for a man will not eat until food is prepared for him. And this is something you would see in older generations. And I'm speaking from experience seen in my family as well. And so now you grow up and you think, but you're a human being. It doesn't mean that a woman has to feed you. You're a man, you should be able to feed yourself, and
Go back home, Candice?
Sorry?
You'll be able to go back home.
Yeah, but it's so interesting. And even like cleaning and stuff like that, it's just like it wouldn't even cross a man's mind to take care of the environment that he is in the household and these sorts of things. So I think there is a double standard, but I think it is changing as the generations turn over. That the expectations are changing, the training is in some way or the other changing, because I think women have learned from their husbands what to teach their sons.
What are some of the stereotypes about women that you think should change?
Okay, I was going to give a killer, but so I think there's a lot of stereotypes that a woman shouldn't want. And you mentioned it earlier in terms of women fighting for men to be like men, or to, these sorts of things. A woman shouldn't want to work, and a woman shouldn't want to do all these things. And if you don't want to be a mother and you don't want to be a wife, that's weird. Why you don't want that? You should be naturally wanting to do it. Now, while I'm saying that, I want to be a mother and I want to be a wife, and and these sorts of things. So
Yeah,
but
but a woman stoops in when you say that, but go ahead.
I know. And that's the thing, it's a double-edged sword, because people think that, you have to have it one way or the other. And, Akila would have mentioned it earlier in terms of, women fighting for their right to work. But now that women have the right to work, a lot of women just want to be housewives now. So it's like what you really want. So, at the end of the day, I don't think it's a hard and fast thing. I don't think it's one end of the spectrum. I think my position on it is that everybody should be given the opportunity. If you want to work, you should be given the opportunity to work and have the support at home from your partner. If you want to be a housewife, that's fine, and I think as a woman, we pull each other down, and we have certain expectations of each other. And many times the woman is the villain in the woman's story, because of the expectations we have of each other as well. And you should want X, Y, and Z, and these sorts of things. So the stereotype is, you should want to be a mother, you should want to be a wife, you should want to do these certain things. And if you don't want these things, then it's weird.
Because I wish that I had been married and the wife says stay home and cook and wash and I do the work. Oh, I would have loved that. Watch football and cricket and things. But it seems like something that is good that is being pushed away. Anyway, what advice would you give to young girls about navigating these challenges? You all spoke about a lot of things that, as I said before, one thing I don't want to be is a woman. And the things I hear you all saying, it more convinced me that that was a good idea. So what advice would you give to young girls about navigating these challenges?
I love the illustrations that Candace would have given. It's so real and I feel it at the core of my chest. So for any, young woman out there listening, even, women, well, even young girls as well, I would tell them that irrespective of the expectation society has, don't rush the process. I would even tell that to, parents as well. Give that young girl time to just grow and develop and be and become. Because sometimes the pressure you put on us, yes, we are sharpened, we are polished, we are independent, we are, all these other things, all these leaves. Sometimes it could feel as though we don't have a place. Our place is just to wash, to cook, to clean, to take care of a house, to treat with a young man, as Candace would have said as well too. Each person should have the responsibility to ensure that they are taken care of. I need to know how to wash to ensure that my clothes are clean. I need to ensure that I can cook so I can have a meal. I need to ensure that my environment is clean, because we know cleanliness is close to godliness. So I think even for the parents out there who are raising young women, the message shouldn't be, or the talk shouldn't be, well, do this because you need to know how to do this when you get a husband, for when you get married. It should be, you need to know how to do this to ensure that you're properly taken care of. Having a clean environment means that you're closer, you could think clearly, your mind is decluttered. Ensuring that you have food to eat and would ensure that you're nourished properly, etc. And it shouldn't be, you need to do this because it's predicated on a man or this or that. Even though you should train young women as well, to even be mothers and wives, the driving force of them learning to do chores and stuff like that shouldn't be on being wives, being mothers, just allow them to be. I would also say as well that to any young woman listening, even though you may feel like you're less than your male superiors, don't think like that. As Candace would have mentioned earlier, I think men and women, we have different roles and responsibilities. I would also say to any young woman as well, don't wish or want to be a man. What men can do, women cannot do. I mean, in terms of biologically, etc. I'm not saying that we're not equal. Equal comes down to being treated fairly, but we are not equal if you're looking at it like that. Men are stronger biologically than women. There are some things men do that I don't want to do. As a woman, I don't want to do. So don't come into the society with this perception that I need to be a man, I need to take on the responsibilities of a man. I would also tell them as well to let your voice be heard. Don't be afraid or ashamed to voice your concerns. You're not a doormat for somebody to walk over or rub their feet on. You have a voice, you have purpose, you are unique as well. Just don't allow the perceptions or the views of society to drown you. Sometimes even women, sometimes we have we're self-conscious about certain things because you hear this list of things that men want, the type of body men desire, stuff like that, and sometimes young girls coming up could feel a sense of insecurity because they don't have these things. But don't allow your value, your worth to be predicated on being chosen by a man. I would tell any young girl that as well. Embrace the beauty that God would have given you, and just do what you need to do within the confines that you have to do it in.
Okay, carry it. I said carry it. Okay. Alex.
Yes, Pastor, you ready to take some calls?
Yes, you there already.
All right, let's open the phone line 622-4911. Speak with Pastor Brown and guests for Victorious Lifestyle. And as we wait for the calls, Pastor, you may continue.
Okay. I want to ask before we in what ways do you think progress after all these years? Candice, you live in a working environment. Akira, you are at school and you have gone through all these different degrees.
I'm sorry, we have a call coming in.
Okay then.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, Pastor Brown, and rest of the panel there.
Sir, if you can please lower the volume of your radio, would be great, thanks.
Locked on and listen. Great program as usual. This is Clapton B.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes,
Sure.
I'm asking. What do both of you have been in environment. You are not pretty old, but you would have seen a lot of things. Would you say that there are some progress that you are seeing as far as all those things that you were speaking about? And I want you all to answer it individually, differently. Would you say that from where you sit, there has been a certain degree of progress? Positive? I said progress, so I mean positive. Right?
So yes, I think, like I said, I see a difference, and I think it's the generational turnover. I think it's the difference in the training at home that makes the difference. Because I will admit, you have a mentality of, men and women, and even things I'm saying this morning, but I wasn't trained to think that way. I was trained to, these sorts of things. And so even when you're having children and stuff like that, you think, well, I don't want a daughter, I want a son, just like how you think, Pastor. You don't want to be a woman, you don't want to bring women into the world and these sorts of things. So it's just, just thinking about it. But I would say progress has been made, seeing and thinking about the expectations of society and these sorts of things. And I think the progress is being made from conversations like this, just educating women that there is something beyond, just marrying somebody and having children. You could feel free to want something more than that. And it's okay to want something more than that. And I don't think it's just happening in schools or in homes. It's something in the church as well, where, there's this expectation, more so than anywhere else, I would say, to get married by a certain age, to have children by a certain age, and to just have the perfect little nuclear family, and these sorts of things. But you should also have a good job with a certain amount of pay and these sorts of things. So yes, progress is being made. And I think more progress could be made starting from the home, the training, the expectations, the treatment, and because you are really shaping somebody's mentality for life. And so I would say more progress could be made in that arena. So, for those parents listening as well, just be very mindful about what you teach your children, not just what you say, but what you demonstrate to them. As a man, how do you respond when your wife asks you to do certain things in front of the children? Do you say, well, that's really for you to do, not for me to do? And so even though you might be teaching them something, what are you showing them? So yes.
Akira? Akira, you want to say all of the above. I'm not hearing you. Your mic. Still your mic.
Yeah, I'd say your mic is unmuted. Okay, good.
Okay. All right, you'll hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I said great perspective. I endorse everything Candice would have said. I think that there is a level of progress that has been made. And, as Candice would have said too, it comes down to what you learned in the home. But I would even speak to the persons who did not get the ideal upbringing, or they would have been raised in a toxic environment, or they didn't even have parents there to train them. I think when you get to a certain age, your actions, the things that you do are your responsibility. So yes, you don't know, but there's a way to find out. Tuning into sessions like these, getting books, reading, having conversations. I would also even speak to, even getting, men and women getting into relationships. These conversations need to happen before you tie the knots. You need to know how this person thinks, how they deal with situations, and not because you were raised a certain way means you have to stay like that. Because when you get married, we're starting a new chapter. we are starting a new family. So there's some of the practices you would have had and I would have had that we have to let go of to start something new. So I think with the progression that I've seen, we also have to keep in mind not everything that I do and I know is the right way. And I have to be open to change to make things work. And not because somebody does something another way means that it's wrong from my way. It's just be different. And I have to learn how to adapt and move accordingly. So not because I didn't get that training at home means, or my mother would have trained me differently, or my father would have trained me differently, means that I have to stay like that. There's room for improvement and growth if you want things to work. So yes, there is progress, and I think we have a responsibility within ourselves to actually continue to allow that progress to move forward.
Yeah, and I want to say to close that sometimes, especially when couples are getting married, they hire the DJ, they print the flyers, they pay for the hall and the drinks and everything, and then they look for the counselor. Now, what could the counselor do? When you bring in a train wreck to him, you have to remember that in our own homes, our siblings, we same father and mother, we eating the same thing, drinking the same thing, exposed to the same thing, and we still have tit for tat among each other.
Yeah.
Consider now you're bringing someone with a different set of baggage. You have your own baggage, and you are coming together under the same roof. It's a recipe for chaos. And that's why I always tell people you need to have proper counseling. And not by a pastor because he and his wife living for 60 years. You are not his wife. So he might tell you how he treated his wife, but you are not his wife. So you need to get a counselor, and I want to suggest Christian counselors, your pastor and things, if they are trained in marriage counseling. And it mustn't be done when everything is set, dressed, done by, and all that. It must be done as soon as you believe that I am serious about this person. Let's talk. Let's get that third party involved. And let's talk about issues. Let's talk about marriage. Let's talk about relationship. Let's talk about how things are supposed to happen. Who will do what and where the power base will be. It's only when we see these things as important, we will stop having this mass divorce rate. No, I'm saying you can do all that and still have problems, but you lessen the chance of those problems when you get to know people. Getting to know people is very important. Very, very important. And remember, to those who are listening to me out there, they might say, no, I got it. The best time of the relationship is that courtship. He is at his very best. You also is at your very best. So if you see any chink in the armor, you know you need to address it. Because at that stage in the courtship, they are at their very best. They're willing to ignore things that are very palpable before them. So we need to understand that if you are going to courtship your home, if you're a woman and you are having any issue, counseling is still a good thing to have. If you love each other, the counselor could meet in the middle of the plane crash and still save lives, But there had to be a foundation that was there. If there's no foundation was there, even a problem on the runway, you wouldn't be able to help, So, because love is the key to hold everything together. So once you love the person, regardless of how tragic what is happening, still see a counselor, a trained counselor. And you can still get through that once there is love. See, love men or love is the glue that holds everything together. So I want to thank you, ladies, this morning, man. I know it was riveting, and I am certain that you all would have touched your lives somewhere, and it was a beautiful experience for me also. Although I have all my views, but as I say, my views are all views. But yeah. So I want to thank you all. Alex, Alex is 10. I didn't take
Pastor.
I didn't take a minute of your time today. Praise me for that, man.
No problem at all. As a matter of fact. So you enjoy the rest of your day, and to your guests as well. Thank you so much.
Yes,
all right.
Yeah.
The next one.